Guys, I'm Steve. In this video, I'm going to be going over my top waiver wire pickups for week 13. So let's just dive right into it. So we're going to start off here with a running back, the Jacksonville Jaguars, JaMycal Hasty. So with JaMycal Hasty, it's kind of similar to Samaje Perine last week. This is all based on the health of the starter. JaMycal Hasty would certainly be in line for a solid workload if Travis Etienne ultimately is ruled out for week 13. He looked great in week 12, looking great as a receiver out of the backfield and as a receiver lined out wide. He had 12 carries for 28 total rushing yards. He had 5 catches on 5 targets for 67 receiving yards plus his 28-yard receiving touchdown. He had a total opportunity share of 77%, including 3 carries inside the 10-yard line. That is very significant. This is all with no Darrell Henderson, though, so that's something we do need to keep in mind. Darrell Henderson was inactive for this game, so we do need to see how this backfield will shape out if Travis Etienne ultimately is ruled out. We don't know how that's going to work out yet. I think it's fair to note the sizes of these two backs. They're about the same size, really. They're both 5'8". They weigh about the same. Darrell Henderson weighs a few pounds more, and I think Darrell Henderson is the preferred early down guy, while JaMycal Hasty is the preferred passing down guy. At least that's what reports are telling us. But again, we don't know how this backfield is going to pan out yet. And if Travis Etienne plays, then this isn't even a discussion. But the chance he doesn't, and JaMycal Hasty is on your waiver wire, go pick him up. I think he's worth a great speculative stash at the very least. And especially if you are a Travis Etienne owner, you need to have him on your roster, especially for the playoff run. So if he's out there, Etienne owner or not, go get him. So we're going to go to his backfield teammate here with Darrell Henderson. So with Darrell Henderson, don't go bulldozing to the waiver wire to pick up a player like Darrell Henderson. All reports are suggesting Travis Etienne is going to play in week 13, as I mentioned. But the chance he doesn't, there is a chance for Darrell Henderson to carve out a decent little role here against this Lions defense. JaMycal Hasty, I feel, is still the team's preferred back, but I feel Darrell Henderson would be their favorite as an early down grinder. So like I mentioned, they played Detroit this week, and then Tennessee the following week, and then Dallas. So Dallas D has been a little leaky recently, so it could certainly be exploited, but he did get traded for a reason, Darrell Henderson. So let's just keep our expectations low until we know what's going to happen. He's only rostered in 47% of leagues. Give him a gander if he's out there. He's certainly worth a shot. So now we're going to pivot here to the Jets backfield. So with this New York Jets backfield, I say backfield because I truly don't know who would be the guy if Michael Carter is ultimately ruled out. Zonovan Knight, he totaled over 100 yards from scrimmage in his NFL debut this week. Ty Johnson, he has 62 rushing yards on 5 carries in his score. James Robinson was a healthy scratch here for this game. Then we had the fact Michael Carter might not miss any time at all. So so with all that being said, I don't know what you can make of that. I think out of the 2 healthy backs that played this week, referring to Ty Johnson and Zonovan Knight, I think Zonovan Knight would be the preferred option. He looked strong. He looked gritty on his runs, moving the pile, strong legs. I think this offense has a distrust in Ty Johnson, and that's why they went out and traded for a player like James Robinson. Other than the Breece Hall injury, I don't see why else they would trade for a player like James Robinson. But again, we don't know how this backfield is going to play out. But I feel for any one of those players, they'd make at least a decent little speculative ad. I keep saying we just don't know what's going to happen yet. So maybe having one of those players till you find out what's going to happen, that might be worth an ad. It's funny too. Like I didn't even know who Zonovan Knight was up until this week. So I apologize, dog, but this is fantasy. We don't know you until you're significant. But we're going to jump to some wide receivers here. Sky Moore of the Kansas City Chiefs. The opportunity for the chance to roster this guy, it's certainly closing. He followed up week 11 with a solid performance in week 12 here. He had the 5 catches on 6 targets for the 36 receiving yards. Over these last 2 weeks, Sky Moore, he's had 12 targets on 31 routes ran and he carries an eye-popping 39% target rate per route run. That is insane. That means when he's on the field, they look for him. And he's only been on the field for 31 routes he's only ran 31 routes the last 2 weeks. And he has that kind of target rate per route run. Sky is the limit for this. No pun intended. Sky is the limit for this kid, man. Rookie wide receivers, they tend to break out in the second half of seasons. Sky Moore is only rostered in 10% of leagues. He isn't going to be on your waivers long, so if he's out there, go get him before the real breakout happens, because it's starting to happen. So we're going to pivot to another rookie wide receiver here, Treylon Burks of the Tennessee Titans. The only reason I didn't mention Treylon Burks first above Sky Moore was because I had Treylon Burks first last week. So with Treylon Burks, again, he's not going to be out on waivers long, if he is at all. Similar to Sky Moore, the window is getting close to ending to have Treylon Burks. He's played 33 or more snaps 3 weeks in a row, which I'll mention now is still less than half, but they've been increasing. But he's played over 33 snaps 3 weeks in a row now. He's followed up his Week 11 performance with a solid Week 12 performance here with 4 catches for 70 yards. Probably most notably recovering a Derrick Henry fumble for a touchdown. He had 6 targets. He ran 30 routes this week. He ran a route on 81% of the dropbacks. The guy makes explosive plays. He's big, he's fast, and the Titans are getting him more and more involved every week. He's only rostered in 38% of leagues. Go grab him while you can. Now. So we're going to jump to another wide receiver here, the Cleveland Browns, Donovan Peoples-Jones. With Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's been very good this year. Since week 4, he's had a 20% target share. He's averaged 72 yards receiving a game. These are all very good receiving numbers. So with Donovan Peoples-Jones, I'm just a little more hesitant just because of the return of Deshaun Watson. Now, obviously, it's a big boost for this offense. But with saying that, we don't know how much consistent fantasy value Deshaun Watson is going to provide to a player like Deshaun Watson. If this was, say, Amari Cooper, we wouldn't be worried about Amari Cooper, even David Njoku to an extent. But so we just don't know how things are going to play out. Is it going to play out like the Miami Dolphins with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, where they're both very significant? Or is this going to pan out like the Buffalo Bills and Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis, where it's the Diggs show and then the occasional boom week from Gabriel Davis? So until we know, we just don't know how the situation is going to pan out for a player like Donovan Peoples-Jones. For really wasn't that consistent up until this year. If he's on your waiver wire, grab him. Because like I said, he's been very good. He shouldn't be on waiver wires. I'm not trying to take away from what he's done already. That's definitely not what I'm saying. And I would like to think the return of Deshaun Watson here is just going to help him get better and better throughout the season. But until we see how good Deshaun Watson's going to be, as he hasn't played in a long time. It's been almost 2 years since he's seen game action. So until we see how good Deshaun Watson is going to be after not playing for how long that is, or how long it's been, in developing a chemistry with Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think you could still use Donovan Peoples-Jones as a flex play this week if you need him, but I would just keep your expectations a little lower. I know it's a revenge game, playing Houston, all that, but just keep your expectations a little low for now until we see what Deshaun Watson can still do. Still a stud. I'm not taking away from that. We don't know how long it's going to take for him to get back into that stud form. So we're just going to quickly go over a tight end here. I might have 2 tight ends. I do have 2 tight ends. Foster Moreau, I've mentioned him in the past. Until the return of Darren Waller, the destruction of the tight end landscape, he's very serviceable, at least for the time being, until the return of Darren Waller. He's been an every down player. He had a better outing in week 12 with a 19.4% target share, 7 total targets, second most of the season actually. 3 catches for 33 yards and his receiving score. He has a good matchup against the division rival Chargers here and makes for a great streamer here in week 13. So if you need a tight end, go grab him. And then one more name I'll mention here, Evan Ingram. I'll mention Evan Ingram simply just because of his matchup, because the game he had last week was absolutely atrocious. Detroit's been very bad against tight ends this year, but even in saying that, Evan Ingram also has been very bad. But with the tight end landscape and the matchup, he's a great streamer, at least for week 13. So jump to some quarterbacks here. There's only one name worth mentioning for this week. Mike White. I can already hear the variations in the locker room of Mike Downs, Mike White. Man, what a baller. I'll just say that. It really is amazing the man doesn't have a starting job. He was very serviceable last year in the weeks he played from week 7 to 10. Starting in place of the injured plague, Zach Wilson. Mike White comes out here and he only throws for 315 pass yards, 3 scores, and a rainy, wet mess win against the Bears. If the Jets want to remain contenders, which they certainly are, they very much need to keep Mike White under center. The offense looked alive, looked like they had a spark, they had poise. They looked very good with Mike White under center. The Jets' strength of schedule is ranked number 1 the rest of the season. So Mike White very well be carrying your team into the playoffs single-handedly. So I think that's it for waiver wire pickups. I appreciate everybody who watched, and I hope you got some good info out of that. I appreciate it. Hope to see you in the next one.